Hello, this is Brian. Today is Sunday, September 26th, 2021. I am in the Santa Ana Mountains, Cleveland National Forest, and I am parked here on the paved portion of North Main Divide Road. And today, I want to do a spotlight video, a spotlight on plants. And today's spotlight is on a very common roadside and disturbed area site plant called Telegraph Weed, or as I prefer to call it, Telegraph Aster. This is Heterotheca grandiflora. This is a very, very, very common plant found mostly at the lower elevations here in Southern California. And it is a member of the sunflower family, not surprising, Asteraceae. You can just tell by kind of looking at it, yeah, this is a sunflower family plant. A lot of times it's pretty easy to tell, for at least people with some level of experience in botany, what a sunflower family plant looks like, and this most certainly is. So, Heterotheca grandiflora is an annual to short-lived perennial herb. I would be willing more to bet that short-lived perennial probably fits the description, but it can be an annual, I believe. I've read that it's an annual to very short-lived perennial, maybe for a couple of years. And why is it called Telegraph Weed or Telegraph Aster? Well, there are a couple of theories. I believe the information I read about this was found in Wildflowers of Orange County in the Santa Ana Mountains by Fred M. Roberts and Robert Allen, that the plant probably would come up, germinate near where telephone or telegraph poles were put up, and that's because the soil of that area was disturbed, and this plant comes up in disturbed areas. And a little turnout on the side of a road or a highway is, well, a disturbed site. And these are very common in those type of areas. This is a very common and widespread plant here in Southern California. Another possibility is that the plant is very upright, so maybe to some people it suggested like a telegraph pole. This is not always what the plant looks like. See, this is a group of a few plants that have come up with multiple stems, apparently. This plant sometimes can come up with one single stem, and I'll show you one across the road here, especially when they're smaller and not quite as aged. Sometimes they can come up somewhat singularly, as this one does here. So, I guess it can suggest a telegraph pole, potentially. So, let's go into the other parts of this plant. It is a native plant. People seem to be surprised by it because of the way it comes up like an invasive plant or an invasive foreign weed. And that's probably why the name weed was given as the common name. Like I said, I prefer Telegraph Aster since it is in the sunflower family and its flowers are aster-like. I call it Telegraph Aster personally. But it is a native plant, but like a lot of Asteraceae, it's very opportunistic. In other words, it's one of the first plants to colonize these disturbed sites. Other Asteraceae that do that are this right here, which is annual burr sage. This is Ambrosia acanthocarpa. This is another Asteraceae sunflower family plant that is very, very opportunistic in these disturbed sites. So, thing is, these plants spread easily, they germinate extremely easily, sometimes within days if the soil's wet enough. Like during the rainy season, these plants can sprout like crazy. And like I said, they're very easy to germinate. I've actually germinated this plant before just by collecting a tuft of seeds, putting it in dirt, moistening it, and boom. Within a few days, there were seedlings all over the place. So yes, it is a very opportunistic plant. So Telegraph Aster is characterized by these toothed leaves that are basically sessile. In other words, they don't have a petiole or a leaf stalk. So they kind of clasp against the stem, and they tend to grow up at an angle. And they have an aromatic smell if you rub them, which is not extremely fragrant, but it does have a slight aroma, and the texture of the leaf is kind of gummy because of the sticky resin on it. So the leaves, like on a lot of sunflower family plants, are quite a bit larger, noticeably larger towards the base of the plant. And you can see these leaves, these old senesced leaves, and senesced, in other words, dried up and dead. These leaves are quite a bit larger than these leaves up here towards the flower heads. And that's very common for sunflower family plants. You'll notice a slight bit of that here on Ambrosius acanthocarpa. You'll notice that these leaves are a little bit bigger. This is not quite as noticeable here on this sunflower family plant, but on a lot of other plants it's very noticeable. If you check my video from last Sunday, the video on Coast Golden Bush, you'll know that I mentioned it about that plant, which is also very opportunistic in disturbed sites. So we're going to go to the next feature. You notice there's a lot of blossoming on this plant. Well, here you have it. Again, it's a sunflower family plant, so these flower heads here are composite. In other words, a flower head actually consists of multiple flowers. And in the case of Telegraph Aster, these plants have, you can see the middle is the disc florets, and these little petal-like appendages are the ray florets. So this is a multiple. So this right here is an individual flower head, and the inflorescence is consisted of many, many, many flower heads. Now the flowers are not extremely large, as you can tell. Flowers are quite small, but grandiflora actually means large flower. So for probably considering other plants in the genus Heterotheca, Heterotheca, the inflorescences are probably larger than other species of Heterotheca. The only other species of Heterotheca I'm aware of right now, I'm pretty sure there are probably several species of this genus. There's another species that's native here to Southern California and may occasionally be found with this plant, and that's Heterotheca sessiliflora, bristly golden aster. So that could potentially be found with this plant. And I believe those flower heads are supposed to be smaller, but if you look up closely, they are actually quite cheerful flowers. I mean, they look like little daisies or little asters. And now this is a plant that could bloom potentially at any time of year, but it seems like towards summer and fall seems to probably be the peak of this plant's flowering. And then very soon they're going to get these bristly little seed heads. And those seeds, when they're ripe, they're easy to pull out, and they're little tufts, kind of like miniature dandelion seeds, and they'll fly all over the place. Kind of like on the Coast Golden Bush that I shot video on last week. Try to see if I could find any in seed. It might actually be kind of early. Like I said, today is September 26th. They might be flowering a little bit later, or seeding a little bit later, I should say. But you see, again, in this area here, there are countless plants in the sunflower family that are taking over this roadside. In fact, here's one I did a spotlight on back in May, and it still actually has some blossoms on it. This is Helianthus gracilentus. This is the beautiful, beautiful slender sunflower. Again, that's another flower head. So Helianthus gracilentus has taken over this whole spot, pretty much, and it's going into seed itself. Again, Heterotheca, or the Telegraph Aster, or Telegraph Weed, most people know it. Very opportunistic, extremely easy to germinate, spreads everywhere, but is a native plant. So with that being told, it is a native part of our ecosystem, and I'm hoping that people seeing this video will look at it other than just a roadside weed like a lot of people probably do. That's the goal of my channel, and goal of my spotlight videos is for even plants that may look plain on the outside, or to a lot of people, that there is some value. There is some value in these plants. And my aim here is to see if I can get or challenge more people to show some appreciation and some love for our plants in general, but also take some time to look at these plants that some people might just consider as weeds, but are actually valuable parts of our ecosystem. Again, they take over. In other words, they take spots away from non-native plants to germinate. Like I showed you on the other side of the North Main Divide Road, all those sunflowers and Asteraceae plants have taken over spots that would otherwise be taken over by non-native plants, which also take over in a lot of disturbance. So there you have it. Heterotheca grandiflora, beautiful telegraph weed, Telegraph Aster, and spotlight on plants video with Brian, and I hope you enjoyed it and hope you can view this plant in a beautiful light like I do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on my next episode.